Well, good morning, friends. Happy Friday. So excited to see you guys all here today. This was such a requested live, and I decided that we needed to make it happen. So we're here. And so here's the thing. I posted on my Instagram stories that we were going to do this live Q&A, and we were going to talk about the anti-inflammatory diet because so many people have been blowing up my DMs with lots of questions, and there's no better way than to ask them all than to do something live. So as you are joining the live right now, good morning. I see you guys there. It's so good to see you guys. Drop me some questions that you have. If you've already dropped them in the message that I left before, feel free to drop it again below. But I'm here to answer your questions. I'm going to take, the next 20 minutes. And we're going to chat this out. And we're going to kind of kick things off by talking about we're going to just talk about what I started with. So many people want to know, what did I actually start with when I first, and this really answers your question, try till you fly. What are you not eating? So we're going to talk about that first. So, and if you guys, can you see the little question box that's on the live chat? If you can drop your questions in there, that would be really helpful too. Okay. If you kind of drop them in there. So here's what I did. Most people ask me, what did I start with? So I started with Whole30. So many people ask me about what was the detox that I followed. And so Whole30 is actually a program that I did many years ago, probably 4 years ago. And I remember feeling the best that I had ever felt before. And so for me, I was as I was kind of going into December and I saw somebody else's question, somebody else said what were your symptoms? So my symptoms were brain fog, where I was I couldn't get a creative idea. I just felt like I was sort of in a cloud, when you're on and you're creative and you've got good ideas. And so I just I couldn't think clearly. And so that was kind of number one. The second thing that I was really noticing is that I just had a headache all the time. Every day I was waking up and I had a headache. And then I also was waking up in the morning, and even after 8 hours of sleep, I was just exhausted. I could put my head down and go back to sleep for 3 hours, right? So there just was this constant, never feeling rested, never having mental clarity, always being exhausted. And then the irritability, I just was irritable. I hit it well. Nobody would have known. And then I was having some trouble, losing some weight. I had about 10 pounds that was kind of hanging around, and I couldn't get rid of it no matter kind of what I felt like I was doing, right? So that's really what prompted me to go down this path. And so, in December, I was I'm getting enough sleep at night. I'm taking care of my body. I'm decreasing my stressors in my life. What is the reason why I am not feeling well? And so then from there, I really said, I'm going to start with kind of a detox, because I remember Whole30 feeling good, not having energy, not having the brain fog. And so I kind of went down that path first. So I had pulled out my Whole30 book, and even when you read Whole30, it's meant to cut out inflammatory foods. So inflammatory foods are things like your sugars, right? Processed sugar, alcohol, gluten is a big one, gluten and wheat, and dairy. And so I knew, right, that I have some triggers. For example, every time I would eat oatmeal, I would get exhausted. And I'm man, oatmeal does not give me energy. It must be something I'm sensitive to. Dairy, every time I would eat dairy, I would get bloated and gassy. And I was okay, I think there's something with dairy. And I knew that there was sort of this correlation between alcohol and my anxiety, because I would always wake up the next day, with higher anxiety, or I'd be overthinking things. So there were all these sort of things that were beginning to line up that kind of pointed me in the direction, of knowing that, hey, I think there's something going on. So I started with Whole30. And again, it talks a lot about inflammatory foods, right there at the beginning. I started that on January 2nd. And I thought, I'm going to give this 30 days. I'm going to cut these things out because I really want to see if it makes a difference. And then I started that. And then I also connected with a functional pharmacist. So Josie Phillips Ross is who I work with. You can find her here on Instagram. And so I connected with her, and she got me a cortisol test. And then we also started some supplements because we were pretty sure my cortisol was depleted and I had some leaky gut issues, right? So just from the symptoms, from the intake, from the form that I filled out, we decided to kind of go down that route and start to kind of heal my gut, which, if you know anything about inflammation in your gut controls everything. You know, your gut is your mental clarity, it's your anxiety, depression, it's your digestion, it's that bloating. And so all of these things really began to add up. And so what we figured out is in fact, I do have leaky gut. I do have adrenal fatigue, like significant adrenal fatigue. And through the process of Whole30, I realized that every time I drink alcohol, I get a headache. I also realized that I don't have a lot of anxiety after cutting those things out. I also realized that the more good fats that I eat throughout my day, right? Like having that balance of lean protein and, all natural fruits and vegetables and really healthy carbohydrates and like good fats, right? That I feel better. And so now that I've figured that out and I've added in some supplementation, I feel good. And yes, I did lose 15 pounds. And I wasn't necessarily worried about losing too much weight because this is not a weight loss plan. This is an optimal health plan, because in order for us to function long-term in life, we have to make sure that we are eating enough food to give our bodies strength, to give ourselves like brain fuel. And if we deplete our bodies, we go into sort of starvation mode, and our body doesn't know when it's going to eat next. So it just kind of holds on to fat. So here's the thing, I'm not worried about losing too much weight. I'm not, actually eliminating food groups at all. I'm just really choosing foods that give me fuel. And so, a lot of people are saying to me, well, can I still do portion fix? How do you incorporate this into Beachbody? And so here's the thing, I'm still doing my workouts. I'm still following even a portion fix sort of lifestyle. Like when you look at portion fix, I'm still focused on, a lean protein, and I want to have a good serving of vegetables, and I want to have a healthy fat, and I want to have a healthy carb in there. So I'm still getting proper balanced nutrition, which is what portion control teaches you. But I'm sort of past the point where I need to lose weight. I'm in maintenance mode, and I'm eating, 3-4 meals a day. So I'm still living that. It's just, when you look at your container list, I'm just not eating all of the foods on the list. I'm choosing the anti-inflammatory foods. I'm choosing the more nutrient dense options. So, a lot of people are like, how do I do this and still do Beachbody? Well, it's simple. It's just like, it's thinking outside of the box. It's making the modifications so that it still works for you. Water, huge part of my day. I'm drinking, 4 of these every single day because I know the value of water, which is absolutely what we teach, through all the Beachbody programs, but also in Whole30 as well. All right. So it's not about, you don't have to count calories. I think that's the biggest thing we get into, is where we don't need to be so rigid. We don't need to be, and Roxanne, that's kind of answering your question. It's not about calories. We're not doing this for weight loss. Like if you're going to say, I want to walk through an anti-inflammatory lifestyle for 30 days, you actually need to put aside the calories. And you really have to say to yourself, like, I need to eat foods that are going to help heal me. And then after 30 days, and the funny part is you'll naturally lose weight because you're making really good nutrient dense choices, and your body is going to settle into that. So remember that. What about Shakeology? Somebody else asked about Shakeology. So Whole30, right? The book says nothing. You cannot have any of that stuff. You can't use Shakeology, but I did. I kept Shakeology in there. It is, my functional pharmacist said, Shakeology is a great superfood. I've researched the ingredients. You can have it. That's kind of my afternoon snack. It's kind of my middle of the day, sort of like, snack that I have, or I'll make it sort of into a pudding and kind of make it like a dessert for myself. But I kept that in there. So again, you would technically say, oh, Melanie, you didn't follow Whole30, which is fine, but I did keep that in there, okay? All right, so here is the other thing. Let's kind of go through some of these questions. Do you continue to use Beachbody? Yes. And here's the thing, the Try Till You Fly, is I did keep doing the workouts, but the one thing that I really adjusted for myself was the fact that I wasn't going to make myself stick to a program in terms of, so for example, I did 9-week Control Freak. So at one point I was like, man, I'm exhausted today. And so knowing that I've got some adrenal issues, I was like, I better do a yoga or I better do a stretch today. And so I adjusted. So it took me longer than 9 weeks to complete a program, but I was really intentional. I was making sure that I was listening to my body and I wasn't beating myself up for how long it took me to complete a program. I really looked at this and said, I'm being healthy. I'm making good choices. I feel good about myself. All right. So that was something that I did. So that I hope that that helps you in there as well. All right. So let's do what supplements did you add in? Again, if you have questions that are coming up, drop them in the Q&A. Like you can see the Q&A, put them there. That's where I'm going to be answering questions from. All right. So what supplements do I add in? I want to do a disclaimer on supplementation. Every single one of us is different. And those of you that also follow my business partner, Katie, you know that she went through a detox as well. And the two of us have two very different sort of reasons why we came together to do this. And so for me, my supplementation was based on my symptoms and my lab results and the blood work and the testing that we did. So I was taking supplements I was taking, a melatonin at night because I take an anti-anxiety medication that depletes my melatonin. I also taking a vitamin D because my vitamin D was a little bit low. I was taking an Adapt CNS, an adaptogenic herb to help me with my cortisol and stress response, right? So I was doing that. After 30 days, I started to take a probiotic that I was taking. I'm kind of looking back through some of my stuff. So L-theanine is so good for anxiety. That is one that Josie will tell you. It improves cognition. It's a relaxant for stressful stimuli. So that's one that I was taking. So every single month we would meet and we would go over my how I was feeling, the progress I was making, and then we would have a new protocol that we would follow. So I'm on my third protocol with like what I take and when I take it. So I also take a magnesium supplement. You heard me talk a little bit about the chasteberry that I started adding whenever we realized I had some hormonal stuff going on. But I really encourage you guys to you really want to pick supplements that are quality. That's really important. Quality supplements. You don't want to just randomly buy supplements. And you want to make sure that you get blood work done, have the testing done so that you're taking the right stuff for you. So I encourage you to, check into that. All right. Okay, so again, if you have questions, drop them in the Q&A so I can answer those. All right, what 4 Sigmatic products do you use? So you have been hearing me talk a little bit about 4 Sigmatic, which I found on the Whole30 website. They talk about like approved things that you can have. So 4 Sigmatic is great. And so I use the morning, they have like a coffee. It's a Think coffee. So I'll drink that in the morning. That kind of gets me going during the day. Again, those of us with some adrenal issues, you really have to be careful with caffeine because too much caffeine can really, it can make you wired and tired. It can really have an adverse effect on your adrenals. So I do the morning Think. I really love the matcha. So there's like a matcha latte. So sometimes I'll have that mid-afternoon, or you can swap that out for your morning coffee. And then at night I do the chill. So it's a chill drink and you can actually drink that at night. And that will kind of help your body sort of calm down, again, with not all that caffeine. For the 4 Sigmatic, I have a link that you can get 10% off. So I'll drop that for you guys after this live. If you want to DM me for the 4 Sigmatic link, I can send you that as well. All right. So I love those supplements. I'm all about sort of biohacking your body. I think that's great. Okay. I did the 4 Sigmatic. Let me talk about this one. What do you feel? Oh, hold on. Oh, that one went away. what do you feel is the number one most important change you have made on this journey? So the most important change that I have made on this journey has been, there's so many, it's really hard to say. I would say nutrition. So I would say my nutrition probably would be the number one most important thing. So if you were starting out right now today, do not worry about supplementation. Do not go buy tons of supplements. Start with Whole30. I would actually encourage you to commit to 30 days of this. And then I just kept going. I didn't reintroduce, I tried alcohol, but that didn't really work. And I just kind of have stayed off of everything else. So I would say the most important thing would be to actually change your nutrition. Most people have an incredibly poor diet, and they don't actually realize that their anxiety, their depression, their chronic headaches, their chronic fatigue, their brain fog is actually related to the foods that they're eating. Most people, once you change that, you're gonna see a significant difference right from the get-go, okay? All right, how does fasting work with Whole30? How often do you eat? So Candy, if you're somebody who does intermittent fasting, totally fine. You can keep doing it. You can make your window. So, with Whole30, it's really about not snacking. So it's like 3 meals and maybe 1 snack. So if you're an intermittent faster, because that's what works for you, then you just pick your window to eat your 3 meals in, right? So that, again, you can totally do that. Most people tend to fast for 12 hours anyways, so your last meal of the day shouldn't be before you go to bed. You should actually leave about 3 hours before you go to bed, before you eat anyways, so you should be able to kind of get that 12 hours. So I hope that helps. I'm not a big intermittent faster. I'm curious about it, but it's not something that I actively do at this time, okay? Why didn't I do the Ultimate Reset? Heather, good question. So Ultimate Reset is a Beachbody program. It is a 21-day cleanse that you can do, but if you look at the Ultimate Reset, it has gluten or has wheat in there. It has soy in there. And neither of those two things I knew that wheat was a trigger for me. I didn't want that. And beans are inflammatory. So for me personally, I knew that wasn't going to be the right thing, just knowing I probably had some triggers already to those kinds of foods. So that's why I did not go that route with the Ultimate Reset. So I hope that answers that question. No, this is not a time nutrition plan. Somebody asked me if I was worried about losing too much weight. The answer is no. I really wasn't worried about losing too much weight, and the reason is because I wasn't restricting my food, right? So when you think about it, I'm not cutting calories. I'm eating a meal for breakfast. I'm eating a large meal for lunch. I'm eating a large meal for dinner. I'm eating all of my food groups. Your body, if you're hungry, you just eat a larger meal. So I had absolutely no worries about losing too much weight because I wasn't restricting, right? I wasn't cutting back my calories. I wasn't over exercising as well. So I think that's really incredibly important to remember, is that this is not necessarily, weight loss is a byproduct of choosing healthier foods, okay? Where do you start as a beginner? Get this book, Whole30, a 30-day guide to total health and food freedom. You can get this book on Amazon. I would highly encourage it. That's where I got mine. But that will help you out. All right, let's see. Did you delete entirely dairy products? Yes, absolutely, 100%. They are an inflammatory food. They do not do well with me at all. Somebody even asked, am I going to go back and add sugar, dairy, gluten, alcohol in moderation? Maybe. I might. I won't say never. I'm sure I will have ice cream at some point. But I'm just going to be really intentional about why I'm having it and why I want to. And I'm not really there yet. I would like to get through the whole process with Josie first, my functional, pharmacist. And then once I'm sort of the point where I'm completely considered healed, then I might reintroduce something to see how my body responds. And if I have brain fog or a headache or bloating, then I have a choice. I can eat it on occasion, or I can eliminate it forever. So it really is like me kind of asking those questions. All right, so that is what I'm gonna do. All right, let's see. How does brain fog feel? Well, that's a good question. So how does brain fog feel? So brain fog, think about it this way. Think about you're like underwater and nothing is clear. Everything is just sort of hazy. You can't make clear thoughts. It's like your processing is in slow motion. There's just not that mental clarity. And so that took me a good week and a half once I started the detox to really begin to feel that. But it's like, whoa, my brain is on. I got ideas going. I've got energy throughout the day. I feel really good. So that's kind of what brain fog feels like whenever you're having it. All right. Okay. What were your go-to meals, or what are your go-to meals? Okay, so I eat the same thing every day for breakfast. Matt makes fun of me because he's like, really, aren't you sick of eating the same thing? And I'm not. So I eat 3 eggs. I will slice up a half of an avocado, put that on my eggs in the morning. I have fresh salsa that I get from Costco, put a scoop of that on there, and then a sweet potato. We bake sweet potatoes once a week, and then Matt will like throw it in the pan and just sort of like fry it basically on both sides, and then I mix that all up, and then I usually have blueberries or an orange as my fruit. That's my breakfast. So that is my breakfast with my cup of coffee, and then I take my supplements in the morning. Go-tos for dinner or lunches. Lunches typically are leftovers from the night before. So we had spaghetti squash with ground meat and some all-natural sauce. So I had that for dinner, but then I ate that for lunch the next day because it heats up well. Chicken, we just grilled chicken or put it in the air fryer, and we'll make grilled chicken salads. That's another staple, another go-to. So those are some of the things that we would eat. We do like flank steak, we'll have actual steak, like we do lots of veggies and we steam them. So really sweet potatoes, white potatoes are my go-to. Balsamic Brussels sprouts, we make those ahead of time, keep them in the kitchen. Sweet potato French fries, the roasted root medley is another one that we do. So those are kind of my go-to meals. Again, it's whole foods. Like I'm eating whole foods. I'm not eating snacks or processed stuff very often whatsoever. And I pack a lot of my stuff. Like I just take it with myself on the go, and it works really great. Okay. Did you cut coffee completely? No, I never cut coffee completely because I started to feel better, and I was like, oh, coffee really isn't a culprit for me. 1 cup is good. I used to drink these ginormous big cups of coffee, and now I just do a regular size cup of coffee, and I always drink my coffee black, and I'll put in there, I have like my 4 Sigmatic that I'll blend in there with that. If you notice that coffee is making you feel jittery, you can cut it out. And then, you might be somebody that can't tolerate coffee. So I think it's important for you to kind of try that out as well. All right. Did Josie give me a timeline for my journey? Yes. So I did ask her this on Monday when we chatted. So we did sort of the detox phase. Then we are repairing, and then the last phase is really sort of, it's like reinforcing. I'm like reinforcing my gut. I'm reinforcing all of the things that we work to repair. So it's probably going to be about 6 months once I'm all said and done. And it's been process of elimination. I think that's important. Like it's not an overnight thing. I would say the first 60 days were gritty. I had to be really disciplined. I had to be really like, I want to change more than I want to stay the same, because there were times where I was like, is this working? I'm not sure that I feel better. And then it was just like, all of a sudden things began to really make a change, but I was so diligent about the headaches, the water, the food, the making sure that I was getting enough sleep. And I really had to set these healthy boundaries for myself in order to get to where I wanted to go, right? I fully expect it'll take me a good 6 months before we figure it all out. And there still are days where I don't feel 100%. There are sometimes that I eat like a healthy food and I'm like, ooh, that gave me gas, or that made me super bloated. And I just keep track of those things. So at the end of this, I really will have a very clear picture of what works for my body. And the cool part is, and I say this, and I've said this for 9 years while I mentor people, is that your body is a science experiment. Every single one of us is unique. We have a unique biology. We have a unique, genetic makeup, and what works well for me may not work well for you, and vice versa. So I think it's incredibly important to remember this is a process. This is a lifestyle change. I do not like when people say, oh, poor you had to give up alcohol. No more cocktails and margaritas. Guys, I would so much rather feel good than drink. I would much rather wake up in the morning without a headache. I can make a fancy mocktail. I can have a great drink in my hand. It just doesn't need to have alcohol in it. I don't feel like my life is depleted if I can't eat ice cream. Life isn't about just the foods that you eat. Life is about the experiences you make and the people you get to experience them with. And I would so much rather experience life without anxiety. I would so much rather experience life without chronic headaches or irritability. And so, it's not about, whoa, you have to cut that out forever. That must be so bad. It's not about that at all. It's about, oh my God, I feel amazing. Why wouldn't I want to do that? So it is about shifting the perspective a little bit too, right? And really kind of looking at things from a different angle. And that's really, that's kind of my perspective. All right. Okay. So again, I am going to go ahead and finish this out, but I, hope that this was helpful. I hope that this gave you lots of information. I hope that this, really did sort of guide you a little bit more so on your own journey to discovery of what's going on with you. And if there are any questions you have, you can DM me. And I actually am in the process of writing up a mentorship program. It's called Living Your Best Life Mentorship. So stay tuned for that. I'm actually going to do just a private mentorship for people that are interested. So I will be dropping the details probably over the weekend on that. So you can check that out. You are able to apply for that mentorship too if you'd really like to go down this path. So, all right, you guys, I hope you have a great Friday. Drink your water, start Whole30. That's the most perfect place to start. And I will see you guys soon. All right. Okay. Bye, everybody.